I enjoy camping, but I like to have a working shower nearby. So this probably wouldn't be the best fit
maybe
for
not
you.
for you.
Probably not for you.
Exactly. Now, what if we can go around the table? You're all involved.
And well,
in
actually, let me
DMAT.
add one other thing
Yes.
about responding, why it's important to be on a team, because it hasn't been brought up yet. You are a doctor, a nurse, a paramedic, whatever. You're licensed in one state. When you cross a state line, you are not licensed as a doctor, nurse, or paramedic in that other state. So there has to be a mechanism. Now, the DMAT teams we're talking about is a federal team, and that, without getting into details, gives you a federal right or opportunity to practice as a doctor, nurse, paramedic, whatever, across state lines.
I call it a common sense pass.
Yeah, well, no, it's not common sense, because again, if you are not part of this federal team, background checks, applications, all the forms filled out, and you are just part of some other group that shows up, you're not a doctor, nurse, paramedic in that other state.
That's what I mean about that team having the ability.
Yes.
Exactly.
It's a common
Yeah,
sense.
I do, yeah.
That's
But a couple
common sense
other
part.
a couple other positions I'd like to mention is we also have psychologists, psychiatrists. We have pharmacists. We have obviously
Yeah,
they're going
well,
to
that's
dispense some medications.
what I wanted to do. Just go around. What is your primary role in your team?
I'm the commander of the team, so I drive a desk.
Okay.
And he does it very well.
What's your primary role?
I am a supervising clinical nurse, so I sometimes supervise all the other nurses, but more often I'm doing logistics or supporting Dave in some other role.
Okay.
I'm a registered nurse, I do a whole lot of training, and I'm a Class A commercial driver,
Perfect.
so I can drive a big rig truck.
Lisa?
I am a EMT, so I tell them exactly what to do. No, no, I'm a EMT. So as any EMT works in the hospitals, that's what we do: assist the doctors, nurses.
Okay. So it's clear we have a wide range. Nobody holds the same position. Clearly. Are you all on the same team?
No.
No.
Dave
Team
and I
one.
are on the same team, CA6.
Six.
In the Bay Area.
LA County, CA9.
Okay. So we've got a good variety: north, middle, south.
North,
A
Absolutely.
little bit of everything. So, as the commander, how many people would you have under you on? I hate this word in our service, but standard deployment.
Yeah, standard deployment. We currently take about 35 with us, and we're revising the federal model now. Next year, we're going to start shifting to a 50-person model.
And that's all self-contained, 35 to 50 people, or is that
Correct.
just your core practitioners and then support?
No, that's a self-contained.
That's everybody.
That's all the people that.
How many on your
listing.
roster total?
The total, like in the San Francisco area, we've got about 150 people on the roster in order to put out a 50-person team on any.
Because not
Yeah,
everybody
we
can
like
talk
to
off the
have
top.
everybody.
Yeah, so
Right.
having
Yeah, makes
a
sense.
3-person depth, is kind of
Yeah.
in positions, so-
Now, what happens if a disaster hits Team 1's area? Does Team 1 activate, or do we just bring in other teams and try to bring you up, or?
That was the
Well-
original idea, was that if a disaster hits, the locals are going to be out of commission and you bring folks in from the outside.
Okay.
However, the issue is, like, my job, I'm a disaster manager full-time. And if it's local, that's where
You're
my
busy.
number
So you-
one
so you have
priority
a-
is.
You have a more important role in your community.
I don't know if it's more important, but that's my full, no, it is more important.
Yeah,
but
pays the bills.
Absolutely, it pays my bills and what have you, and that's what I do full-time. Therefore, teams that are on call from other areas would come in and provide
that's-
that support.
And that's one of the things we talked about. There are DMAT teams that are on call every month. West of the Mississippi, east of the Mississippi, there's a certain number of teams.
3 regions.
And 3 regions, and they're rotated. Our
Which
team
doesn't
is
mean
up.
you necessarily have to go if they ask you. It's all volunteer to be on the roster.
It just, maybe a higher sense of preparation, looking at scheduling, so that if we do go, I think we're up next month, October.
So October comes around, you guys are on call, a major disaster strikes Florida. How quickly can your team mobilize and be on the ground?
We would be.
If everybody's available?
If everyone's, well, because we're on call, we make sure that we have those people available even before the hurricane hits or
Yeah.
whatever. We would probably be out the door in 4 to 6 hours, flying time to Florida, and then from there, whatever we're told to do.
And what resources do you have for moving by air? Do you use Air Force or commercial?
It is by any means possible. It's
Okay.
coordinated centrally, and we're just given orders. Most of the time these days it's commercial or commercial charter, but we've flown military, we've hopped in buses and driven across the country.
Again, to make sure everybody gets the right idea, you said how quickly could you be there out the door in 4 hours? 4 hours would be like a deployment from the time you got the request.
Yes.
So the hurricane hits Florida, the Florida authorities say that they're overwhelmed, put in a call from the local cities to the county to the state to the feds activate a team. It may be 24 or more hours before the team gets the
Before the
notice
phone
to go.
rings, the team says,
So
yeah.
again, it's not a rush-in first response type of
So,
thing.
so when they, when the rule of thumb, be prepared to be self-sufficient for 72 hours, it could take 72 hours for that whole process to
Yeah.
happen and for a field hospital to spring up in your neighborhood.
Absolutely.
One of the reasons they're looking at the different models, however, and I think the direction that they're going, and you mentioned, is pre-positioning teams. Now, because of experiences in Katrina and having teams closer, not necessarily in the impacted area, but near the impacted area, and we've seen that over and over again in the last couple of years, so that response time can be quicker if necessary.
A lot of states are also starting their own similar teams for the same reasons. They can have closer,
Response time.
more responsive resources.
Okay. One of our viewers is asking, he's in Quebec, and he's asking, are there teams like this all around the world?
There are not. There aren't that many medical teams that do this. When we were in Haiti in January, we saw the Chileans, the Israelis. I'm trying to remember.
Well, I guess the definition is team. The teams we're talking about here, DMAT, is a American federal government volunteer-based type of situation. A lot of other countries have disaster response groups, but they're commonly military-based.
Right, it could be military.
Because then the military, they have the tools, the equipment, they're used to working in depraved zones like combat areas. So the Israelis set up what ostensibly is a military hospital in Haiti and did a great job, set it up.
And there's also NGOs, non-government
Yes,
organizations.
yeah, oh,
like,
absolutely.
Doctors Without Borders.
Yeah.
Even like Catholic Relief Services
Right.
gets into stuff like
International Red Cross.
International Red Cross.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Our Quebec friend is frowning about that. Now, when these teams mobilize, when you're requested, you're sent out, you're federalized so that you can cross state lines. I'm sure that affords you other special status and protections.
Right.
You've gone to Haiti.
Yes.
I imagine if Quebec needed help and it was requested through the channels, you'd still be able to deploy there, right? So long as you're requested.
It has to be
in a
requested.
proper way.
It has to be requested.
Yeah, so it sounds like we can cover you there in Quebec if we have to.
Yes, we're there for you.
It may not be one of these teams, but.
And again, we get invited by the federal government. When you show up, you have to have a passport, and you're coming into the country, although because of the disaster, it's not quite like passport control at the airport, but you
Yeah.
have to have permission to be there. You don't one country does not invade another, even if it's a
Yeah.
disaster.
Yeah.
Well, we showed up at an airport one time with all our gear, and they were going to take us through one at a time, and then when they realized we had about 40 people with bags, they just
Yeah,
okay,
never
come on.
mind.
It was otherwise it would have taken
You'd still be there.
72 hours
Yeah, exactly.
to get there. So
And you're obviously coming into a place where security is an issue. You talked about establishing government and healthcare. Maybe local law enforcement does have a handle on things. And I'm sure, as first responders, it's hit into the back of our heads to the point where we don't even notice it anymore. Scene safety, scene safety, scene safety.
Right.
I imagine there's a point where by the time your team is mobilized and going to arrive, they've got some semblance of security. However, you mentioned there's security and communications
Right.
involved in the team.
That's correct.
Do you have your own armed security force, or do you rely on local resources?
David, you want to tell them about Katrina?
Katrina.
Oh, a story!
Yeah, David, why don't you
love
tell
stories
us
at
about
the table.
Katrina?
Got a good one.
The answer is no, we don't have our own. We have our security personnel are there to interface with whatever the security resources that are provided either by the local government or the federal government or state government. So we don't travel armed. So no to that question, and no to the question about having scene safety first and foremost. We sometimes find ourselves in situations that they seem safe at first, but then
Inopportune.
yep, things happen. One guy with a gun can be a spoiler for a whole lot of people.
Yeah.
And there are a bunch of people out there, especially after disasters, that they're looking for things. They're trying to take care of themselves and their families. They get frustrated. They don't get what they want, and they'll do whatever
Whatever it
they
takes
can,
to
whatever it
protect
takes.
their
Or they feel the rule of law is off, and now it's their
Yes.
chance to act
Yes.
up.
Exactly.
Now,
Yes.
let's say I'm a paramedic on an ambulance resource in one of these communities where a DMAT has been mobilized and is set up. Will I be able to liaise directly with the team in providing healthcare in the
You will
community?
go through the incident
Incident
command
command.
system.
Right.
Absolutely,
Good.
through incident command system.
Chain of command.
Chain of command, and that's what the incident command system and SIMS and NIMS is all about, is so that where are you on the org chart? Where's the DMAT on the org chart? And if you need something, you'll be assigned to work with them or some liaison.
I mean, as a medic, you probably have certain designated facilities that you have to transport to. And a DMAT field hospital is not on that list unless your local health services declares that as such or makes some other arrangements. So it's got to have a local connection there.
How is the working relationship when the team is deployed with local EMS resources? Do they see it as a, thank goodness you're here to help, or is it more of a, we kind of had a handle on things?
Usually it's good because the locals know the disaster has happened and they want the help.
They need the help,
The
yeah.
call for help went out. And so long as you come in, and sometimes there's some suspicions, who are you guys, what are you doing here? But once we find out we're not there to take over their jobs or get in their way, or it's like, you come in with the attitude, it's your disaster, how can we help you?
Right.
Really?
Right.
Just tell us, where do you want us to be? Can you go over there? Fine, we're over there.
A lot of times, we find out because a lot of people still don't know about us, and local EMS may have heard about us, but if they don't have a DMAT in their facility or in their vicinity, we come in, they may not know what our capabilities are. And so sometimes there's a little feeling out period, but like Dave said, on one deployment, we were asked to go out and assess people on Indian reservations or near Indian reservations, to go around to check the faith-based churches. We'd heard that some of the churches had set up their own kind of facilities. And so I think, at first, a lot of the EMS, I don't think there's any friction. It's just they may not know what we're capable of at first until we get some
It's a
interaction.
learning curve.
And
Everybody goes up
that's
it.
one of the reasons I wanted to have you all to the table, because even I didn't know the full extent of a DMAT team, and I'm the son of a USAR captain. So you would think that I would know all these different resources.
Son
I've
of a
heard
USAR
DMAT,
captain.
and something those the guys that come out and debrief me after something
Right.
happens in the field? Who are they
Yeah.
again?
We won't
But there's
tell
a,
you.
there's a lot of people out there that have
We won't tell
been
them what we
nurses or
think USAR
paramedics or
stands for.
doctors for years that have not a clue what we do or that we're even out there.
Yeah.
So-
I think that's just comes with the territory. When you're on a USAR team, you're out digging people out of a rubble pile. That's high drama. The cameras are there. It's high profile.
Where does that person go?
Uh,
That's
right,
what
exactly.
They come-
That's what I wonder. All those
Exactly.
pictures, you saw the
Where-
heroic rescues, and they put them on a cot, and the cot goes off
And where
camera, and I'm
where
like,
they-
no, is there even an
Right.
ambulance
And-
or
and,
a truck?
In 9/11 World
Or anything.
Trade Center, it was the DMATs taking care of the USAR
Firefighters. Right.
people, firefighter, paramedics on the scene.
As you might
And
expect,
the
we
search
don't
dogs.
allow cameras for medical privacy where we work. So
Yeah.
Right.
we very much remain under the under
HIPAA
the radar.
laws still exist
radar.
in that
Still
form.
gotta figure out a way around that. That would make a great episode of Beyond the Lights and Sirens, going out with the DMAT team. But putting Ted Setla and our production team on your roster and waiting for something bad to happen may not
Yeah,
work out.
waiting and
Yeah.
waiting.
So is there a website that any of our viewers, our listeners can go to and learn more about a DMAT in their area, or should they just call up their organization? Obviously there's a wealth of
Right.
teams in California. What about somebody who's not near a team, who may not know if there is a team nearby?
I think if you just search the internet, if you go on Google or Yahoo or whatever, and search DMAT and your
NDMS.
state or NDMS, or even just disaster medicine or medical team in your state, you'll find them. They're pretty easy.
Yeah, and like Dave says, to have one website to go to, this DMAT, remember, is a U.S. federal organization. There are state teams. I know there's state teams in little
Absolutely.
state that we don't know about.
Yeah.
Little groups of people who have trained and prepared to go out that we've never heard of before, and that may be just the right group for one of the viewers here.
So if you Google, let's say I live in Rhode Island, if you Google DMAT, of course, Disaster Medical Assistance Team Rhode Island, something should pop up, or NDMS, National Disaster Medical System.
Now, is there
Which
a
we
point?
monitor.
Is there a point where if a DMAT team is deployed and you're in a community and you need additional resources? Do you call another team, or is there a situation where you may say,
Incident command system. If you need
Exactly.
something, you make
Go
a
up through the
request for
chain.
resources, and it goes through the chain, and it goes up because they're federal teams, federalized. It will go to the command center of Washington. What do you need? More people, more equipment, then they'll work to get it and then send it to you.
Yeah.